Hello, Caroline. Welcome back. Let's continue where we left off, man.
Hugo glared down at the mammal of indeterminate origin, his parents sitting on either side of him, and that damn hobo with the scarf leaning on a nearby wall. Well, rest assured, young man, you did pass the practical exam. In fact, you earned the highest number of villain points of all examinees. Obviously, Bakugo scoffed. Neju sighed. Young Bakugo, I want you to stop and think for a moment. Why do we call them villain points exactly? Why not just call them exam points? Can you tell me? The fuck was this rat getting at? Katsuki sat for a moment, thinking, before it dawned on him. There's another point value, isn't there? Katsuki demanded. Neju nodded. That is precisely correct. There is indeed a second, hidden point value. Rescue points, earned by saving your fellow examinees from particularly tight situations. Almost 97% of all UA examinees earn at least a few rescue points, even if completely by accident. The reason I have chosen to deliver your acceptance in person, young man, is because you did not earn a single rescue point during the entrance exam. Neji pulled out a holodisc, which promptly displayed Katsuki's score. 77 villain points and 0 rescue points. Like I said, almost everyone earns rescue points, even if completely by accident. The fact that you did not earn a single point in this category suggests that you deliberately went out of your way to not help anyone. Why does it fucking matter? Katsuki snapped. I beat all the damn villains. It matters, young Bakugo, because it completely goes against everything a hero is supposed to stand for. Neju sighed. Being a hero is about helping people in need. Having to fight villains is merely an unfortunate side effect to heroism. Are you honestly telling me that you would be willing to refuse future rescue missions if it meant no villains to fight? Katsuki opened his mouth. If the answer is yes, I will revoke your acceptance on the spot. Katsuki closed his mouth. Neju sighed. I understand that not all of this is entirely your fault, young man. That you have been deeply affected by the MLA indoctrination. I ain't fucking indoctrinated. But that doesn't change the fact that your actions are completely your own. I want you to understand that UA is trying to help you. I just need to know that you are willing to accept this help. Because if not, then again, I will revoke your acceptance on the spot. I want to help Bakugo, but I will not waste time and resources on a lost cause. The two stared each other down, Ned's beady eyes not wavering for several long moments. Fine, Bakugo snapped. Fucking fine. We'll do things your way, you damn rat. Excellent, and with that I shall take my leave. He handed Katsuki an envelope that contains the information you'll need for school. See you soon, Bakugo. Hey, Ned's paused at Katsuki's voice. At least tell me I got first on that shitty exam. Neju sighed. You got third, young Bakugo. Katsuki grit his teeth as Neju left the house. 2 days later, Hey, Yumara-san? Achako asked suddenly at lunch. I've been curious, but where are you going for high school? Hanako was oddly silent for a moment before she sighed. Umineko Academy. Achako promptly choked on her drink. Isn't that a very prodigious school? I asked. You need to be super smart and throw a lot of money to get in. I know my parents wanted to send me there before they died. Hanako just sighed. My mom saved a lot of money for my dad's life insurance. She wanted me to get into a good school that was close by. Yeah, but what about your grades? They're average at best, aren't they? Achako asked. Look, can we just drop it? I don't want to talk about it. Hanako huffed. Are you okay, Yumara-san? Izuku asked, a bit put off by her attitude. Hanako sighed. I'm fine, just stressed. Sithila laid a reassuring tentacle on Hanako's shoulder. We're all here if you need anything, Yumara-san, Achako stated. Hanako gave a small, genuine smile. X March 70H: Izuku, sweetie, there's someone on the phone for you. Izuku promptly took the phone from his mother. Hello? Koda. What kind of foods does Uri like? I'm asking for a friend. Izuku blinked, then grinned as he realized what was going on. Well, let your
Hello.
friend know that Uri absolutely loves apples. Okay? Okay, there was a click as the call ended. 10th White Day : Hey there, kittens. Ragdoll practically squealed as she burst into the Midoriya home. I'm here to chaperone your date. Oh, and I brought Kota so he could play with Eri. Kota walked up to Eri, red-faced, as he held out a box of homemade apple tarts with a quiet "here." Eri gasped. Thank you, Kota-kun. W whatever, it's not like I like you or anything. Let's go play. Eri grabbed Kota's wrist and dragged the startled boy upstairs. 10th, the trio ended up going to a nice restaurant just outside of town, Ragdoll standing watch just nearby. About midway through the meal, Izuku excused himself to go to the bathroom. He had finished up his business and was just washing his hands. Hi, Izuku. Izuku blinked before looking into the mirror, seeing a small figure standing behind him. He turned, coming face to face with a young girl. She wore a long-sleeved, dark blue dress with a teal bonnet, under which he could see strands of short, black hair peeking out, and a pair of gloves on her hands. She stared up at him with big, blue, emotionless eyes. Oh, hello there. You realize this is the men's bathroom, right? If you want me to sign something, you'll need to wait outside, Izuku replied gently. Honestly, though, people have approached him in weirder places just to ask for an autograph. No, that's okay. I just wanted to let you know that I went ahead and sent Moonfish to a maximum security cell in Tartarus, so you should have to worry about him messing up your date. What, my name is Ronri, by the way. Oh, okay, Ronri, do you want to explain or? No, it's fine. I just always make a point to talk to you whenever I'm in a new universe. Hug, and then she hugged him. Izuku being heavily startled by the strange little girl's behavior. Ronri pulled back, and Izuku jumped as a rift tore open behind her. Don't worry, we'll see each other again. I normally try not to interfere, but I'll make an exception in your case if need be. Then Ronri turned and walked through the rift before it snapped shut behind her, leaving Izuku dumbfounded. You okay, kitten? You were in there a while. Ragdoll asked as Izuku stepped out of the bathroom. A ragdoll? Ragdoll blinked, cocking her head in confusion. What little girl? There was a little girl. Are you all right, kitten? 'Cause I can assure you, my quirk only sensed you in that bathroom. She can bypass Ragdoll's quirk. What kind of quirk does Ronri have? Izuku thought. Though now that you mention it, there were reports of Moonfish being nearby, only to suddenly vanish and somehow appear in a maximum security cell in Tartarus. Overall, despite the bizarre encounter, he actually had a pretty nice date with his girlfriends for once, and gladly ended the night snuggled up with the two girls on the couch watching Ghibli movies. 10th graduation : Hey, all of you together now. Izuku suddenly felt himself yanked by one of Hanako's webs straight into the rest of his group of friends, Hanako hurriedly setting up a camera. Yumara-san, what is this? Achako asked. Group picture. To cap off our middle school careers before we go into the absolute hell that is high school. See, Thilla, Yuzumar, Midoriya, you three are the tallest, so move to the back. You're Rock, Haji, and I will be middle group. Yuri, come over here, you can be in the front. Yuri, who had come with Inko to see Izuku's graduation, began toddling up to the group. Unseen by anyone, she accidentally brushed up against Shinato, who winced before blinking as a light blue glow faded from his eyes. He suddenly turned and walked away as fast as he could without drawing attention. Yuri stood in front of the group, Izuku wrapping his arms around Achako and Ai as he smiled at the camera. Ai just held up her hand, trying to shyly cover her face, her now chest-length hair bobbing. Hanako joined the group, holding up a peace sign. Say cheese, the camera flashed. 10th, I can't believe you let mine into this school. Midnight sighed. I wish to at least try and curb his behavior. Neju responded. He will be in general education on academic probation with the same restrictions as Katsuki Bakugo. If he steps out of line even once, he's gone. I also mandated appointments with you since this kind of behavior is more your line of work. His class, while they won't be told the specifics, will also be told that they are to inform any member of staff immediately if he acts out. So how did Minda's parents react to the news? Bet they weren't happy. Actually, they were very understanding of the situation. In fact, they seemed quite embarrassed by their son's behavior and accepted the terms of his probation without a fight. They are surprisingly decent people. How about that? 10th day of the dorm transfer. It was decided to move the students into the dorms 2 days before the school year began so as to allow them a bit of time to get used to living in them. Aizawa would be accompanying Izuku and Iridiue, their stuff already en route. Unfortunately, that meant they had to get up pretty early because they were taking the train and Aizawa hated people. So there they were, in a somewhat empty train before the sun had even risen, having had an emotional goodbye with Inko and Iri sleeping with her head on Izuku's lap. Aizawa decided to buy them breakfast at a Japanese McDonald's. At least Sori got to enjoy some pancakes. They arrived at Yua just as the sun was starting to peek over the horizon, Aizawa leading Izuku and Iri to the dorms. "Your stuff should have already arrived," Aizawa told the two siblings as he showed them the room assignment. Izuku quickly noticed that Ajiro, Shiro, Sato, Kirishima, Mina, Todoroki, and Bakugo had been replaced by Komori, Shizaki, Tsunotori, Tetsu, Rin, Honki, and Shinso. He also noticed that Aoyama's spot had been taken by someone named Kuroyun. Izuku felt a spike in his chest. Nezu had told him about the Aoyama family's disappearance. "Both of you go upstairs and unpack." Aizawa pointed to the room assignment chart. Izuku had the same room as last time, though this time, the room that was Mina's in the previous timeline was to be occupied by Iri now. "I'll wait for the rest of your classmates to arrive, and I'll subject them to a quirk assessment test." "You don't want me to take the test?" Izuku asked. "I already know what you're capable of, problem child. Besides, Nezu wouldn't let me expel you even if I wanted to." He turned, strolling lazily to the front doors. "The other kids, however, are fair game." Ai clutched Makeman close to her chest. The school had allowed students to bring pets to the dorms, though citing that their owners were solely responsible for them. She looked up at the dorm that would be her new home for the school year. Taking a shaking breath, she held her purring kitty close as she stepped forward and prepared to begin her new life as a member of Class 1. Chapter 32. Achako looked around as her new classmates gathered at the front of the dorm, waiting for their homeroom teacher to show up and let them in. She sighed. Izuku had warned her that Aizawa would most likely put them through a quirk assessment test at his earliest convenience, with the threat of expulsion hanging over them. It was just a matter of him showing up now. She took solace in the fact that she, Ada, Su-chan, and Shinso were in the same class. "Hey there," a girl with pink hair and skin chirped as she walked over to Achako. "I'm Mina Shido. Nice to meet you." "Oh, I'm Achako Yurakai. If you're just here to make friends, then you can pack up and leave." The class froze, all slowly turning to see what appeared to be a giant yellow caterpillar that certainly hadn't been there before, laying in front of the dorm entrance. The caterpillar suddenly sat up, opening from within as what appeared to be a hobo with a weird-looking scarf stepped out. "It took you all 8 seconds to quiet down. That won't do. In the world of heroics, every second matters." He stood straight, glaring at them. "I'm Shota Aizawa, your homeroom teacher." He turned, opening the door to the dorms. "Follow me." He leaked them into the main area of the dorm house. Male students are on the left, females on the right. There's a set of communal bathrooms, also separated by gender. You also have a courtyard, a living area, laundry, and a fully stocked kitchen. If you desire any specific kinds of foods, bring it up with Lunch Rush and he'll add it to the next order. Don't worry about the price. This school's food budget is ridiculous. Aizawa pointed to a map. "These are your assigned room. Your stuff has already been moved into them. Any questions?" "What Kaminari?" "So I know I suck at math, but I only see 19 students here, and the map shows 21 rooms filled instead of 20. Yeah, and isn't Iri a girl's name?" Hagakure added. "Why's her room in the boys' wing?" "Oh, Iri is Izuku or Midoriya's little sister." Achako spoke up. "For reasons I can't specify, Iri will be living on campus with her brother," Aizawa explained. "As for where they are, they're upstairs unpacking. The rest of you, however, aren't going to be doing that yet. On each of your beds, you'll find a UA gym uniform. Put them on and meet me outside." "10th, oh my god, a kitty." AI squeaked as a girl with silver, gravity-defying hair practically blitzed up to her. The girl noticed AI's reaction and took a step back. "Sorry, I just got excited. I'm Amir Yatsuboshi. I think we sat next to each other in the entrance exam." Oh yeah, AI recognized her now. "AI, The blue-haired girl responded quietly, turning away slightly. Oh, a shy one, huh? Sorry, I'll try to turn it down a little. I used to go to one of those MLA schools, so I was disregarded a lot for having a weak quirk. It didn't get to bullying, but I don't think the teachers really cared as much. You know, all right, kids, gather around. I looked to see that their homeroom teacher was 13. She would try and get an autograph for Achako later. As the class gathered around, AI became curious as she noticed there were only 7 boys. Why were there so many girls in this class? 10th, meanwhile, at the Onesie dorms, why aren't there any girls in this class? A short boy with purple balls in his head wailed, falling to his knees and crying tears of blood as his all-male classmates looked at him in either bafflement or disgust. President Mike felt a headache coming on, having felt like he just figured out Aizawa. 10th, hey, how come 1A's gathering outside in their gym uniforms? An orange-haired girl asked as she looked out the window. Aizawa must be doing his quirk assessment test early this year. Vlad King answered. Bakugo sneered. Fucking Deku got to do a quirk assessment test while he was stuck inside with these lame-ass extras. Fucking bullshit, a quirk assessment test. Do these wanna clowns already think they are so much better than us that they get to show off their quirks? A loud blonde that Bakugo already didn't like called out. Todoroki just huffed and went to go unpack his stuff. 10th, it took 10 minutes for you all to gather out here. That won't do. I already told you that every second counts in the world of heroics, Aizawa said as he led the kids to a training field. We're going to be doing a quirk assessment test to gauge your capabilities. The Ministry of Education doesn't allow this in normal schools because they want to hold up the illusion of everyone being equal. It's stupid. Yoraka. Achako jumped as Aizawa turned to her. You had the highest score in the practical exam. What was your farthest softball throw in middle school? About 58 meters, I think. Aizawa tossed her a ball. Do it again, this time using your quirk. Anything goes, just stay in the circle. Achako stepped into the circle, pondering for a moment, before activating her quirk on the ball, rearing back and hurling it into the sky. They all watched for a few minutes as the ball became smaller and smaller, before disappearing entirely. Aizawa blinked. We're not getting that back, are we? Looks like team softball is blasting off again. Achako joked. Aizawa groaned, then his phone beeped, and he held it up to show the class. Infinity? The class exclaimed in shock. Well, except for one kid near the back. How is that even possible? Kaminari yelped. I want to try. This looks like fun. Mina exclaimed excitedly. All at once, the air seemed to grow heavy. Fun, huh? Aizawa asked. So you think heroics is all about fun? Then how about we raise the stakes a little? We'll be doing a series of exercises to determine your potential. Whoever comes in last will have none and will be expelled on the spot. The class went silent, staring at him in shock. Why you can't do that? Hagakure yelped. We just got here. The school year hasn't even started yet. We haven't learned anything. Yeah, man, Tetsu chimed in. This is totally unfair. Our natural disasters fair. Aizawa responded. What about villain attacks that kill and injure dozens? Life's not fair, kids, so suck it up. I already said I can run my classroom how I want. What about Midoriya? Rin asked. Shouldn't he be taking part in this too? I took part in a Yakuza raid with Midoriya, Aizawa answered. The class gaped as they remembered seeing that on TV. So I already know what Midoriya is capable of. Why do you think he's unpacking while you're all down here fighting for your spots? Aizawa's eyes glowed red, causing the class to shudder. And don't even think about trying to take out your frustrations on him. It was my decision to exclude him from this test. Now let's begin so I can go sleep. As they began to perform the exercise, Mina wandered up to Achako again. So, you're Raka, she asked slyly. You seem to know Midoriya pretty well. You even seem to be on a first-name basis with him. Achako blinked, confused. Well, yeah, he's my boyfriend. Achako jumped as Mina squealed. Details? I need details, she said, grabbing Achako's hands excitedly and apparently forgetting she was at risk of expulsion. Oh, well, there's 3 of us actually. We're polycule. Our girlfriend's in Gen Ed, and she's super shy and anxious around people. Nearby, Ibarra paused as she overheard before looking at Achako in disgust. Ishido, quit playing around and get up here, Aizawa called. Mina yelped and ran up to the 50-meter dash. Her opponent was a boy named Kuroyume, a 7-foot-tall boy with ghostly white skin, dark black hair, blood-red eyes, claw-like fingernails, and razor-sharp teeth. His quirks seemed to be manipulating some kind of dark energy. He also seemed to insist on frightening his classmates for no apparent reason, especially Kota, who seemed to be the easiest to scare. At one point, it approached him, chopping his arms angrily. I must ask that you stop terrifying Kota-kun. If you cannot take this seriously, then leave. Yum just rolled his eyes. Who shoved a stick up your ass? It sputtered as Yum continued. It's from my quirk, you damn stiff. I can stockpile people's fear and turn it into dark energy. I'm not trying to be malicious or anything. I'm trying just as hard here as everyone else. First, I see. While I do not approve of your tone, I suppose if scaring people is required for your quirk, I cannot argue. Though I would think the fear of being expelled would create enough energy for you. I am absorbing it actually, but general fear isn't as potent as fear directed specifically at me. I see. My apologies. Surprisingly, Kota was also quite forgiving once he learned why Yum seemed to be targeting him. Ibarra also gave him this stink eye when she wasn't glaring daggers at Achako. Overall, most of the class had at least one test they were good at. Shinso managed to match Achako's score at the ball throw by briefly brainwashing her to use her quirk on the ball. Aizawa allowed it since Shinso was using his quirk to his advantage. Komori also dominated the sidestep by creating some really bouncy mushrooms and bouncing between them, though she had to take a short break to ward off the resulting motion sickness. And then Yaoyorozu created a moped for the endurance run, only stopping when Aizawa told her to. Though Achako worried about Hagakure, who seemed to have very little muscle and struggled through each test. Soon it was over, and Aizawa stood in front of the class. Rather than go over each of your scores individually, I'll just put your placements and screen here. A holographic display appeared from the phone, and Achako breathed a sigh of relief. 11th place. Yaoyorozu had pretty much dominated the tests and earned first. Achako heard a quiet sob. She looked and saw Hagakure was in last place. And for those of you who thought I was kidding about the expulsion, why did he glance at Yaoyorozu? I wasn't. Yaoyorozu went pale as Hagakure started crying harder. Hagakure, Aizawa began. You have no physical muscle, and you only passed the entrance exam by taking advantage of the robots having off switches. Some students glared at Aizawa while others tried to comfort Hagakure. However, the class froze, and Hagakure choked on her sobs. I can tell you were giving it your all during these tests, so you aren't entirely lacking in potential. Aizawa sighed, pulling out a jelly packet. You're not being expelled today, but you're on thin ice. If I don't see any significant improvement by the end of first term, you're out. Got that? Why, yes, sensei. Hagakure choked out. Thank you so much. Good, and now all of you come with me back to the dorms. I have a couple of announcements to make, and I need you all present. He led them back, opening the door to the dorm common area. Izuku and Uri were finished unpacking, the little girl watching Minky Momo as Izuku prepped a lunch for them. Mina squealed, running over to Uri. Oh my goodness. You are just the cutest little thing. Mina cooed as she looked over the unicorn child, several of the other female students coming over to bask in Uri's cuteness. I am going to show you so much age-inappropriate anime, Mina continued excitedly. Izuku came out to see what the ruckus was. First off, I have an announcement. Midoriya, Aizawa turned to the green-haired boy. I'm making you class representative. I'd like to abstain. No, Izuku blinked. This is payback for giving Joke your number, isn't it? You're damn right it is. He turned to the rest of the class. The rest of you figure out who'll be your vice rep by Monday. I don't care how, as long as no bloodshed is involved. I'll come take you all to orientation Monday morning before giving you a tour of campus. Midoriya has my number if you need it, but don't bother me unless it's an emergency. Aizawa straightened up, giving a feral grin. Welcome to hell. Now go unpack. Aizawa turned and left, leaving the class baffled. Overall, not a terrible start to their UA careers. Moana Few of Class 2 shuddered as she suddenly felt a surge of both jealousy and dread. Looking around, she could see the rest of her classmates had similar reactions. It made her wonder how Aizawa-sensei's new class was doing. Chapter 33. In the end, they decided vice representative would be decided by a vote, though Izuku couldn't help but feel concerned over why Momo looked so uncomfortable being elected compared to the previous timeline. Later that night, the new class sat down to a nice dinner of American-style inside-out cheeseburgers that Pony had been really excited to make. Once everyone was nice and fed, Mina suddenly stood up. "So I was thinking we should all have a contest to see who has the best room." The class looked at each other with worry and confusion. "Is that really okay?" Honki asked. "I mean, most of us have only just met today. All the more reason to have this contest," Mina said excitedly. "It's a good way to get to know each other more. I mean, we're going to be classmates for the next 3 years, aren't we? Assuming Sensei doesn't expel us." Gyro snarked. "You know, I think it sounds fun." Izuku spoke up. "But on one condition, Ishido. You can't force us to participate in this contest. If some of us don't feel comfortable showing off our rooms, then they have every right to back out." "Well said, Midoriya." Ada chopped. "Ugh, fine." Mina groaned. And that was how the first Asterisk Class 1A room competition came to be. For Izuku's classmates from the original timeline, their rooms were pretty much exactly the same. Izuku's room was more varied in regards to hero memorabilia and had more personal pictures, including one that caught Mina's eye. "Oh, what's this one?" Mina picked up the picture. It was Izuku Achako and Ai during the New Year's festival. Ai was shyly covering most of her face with a ceremonial fox mask she had gotten, though if one looked closely they could see a small smile on her face. Achako was holding up a large bag of homemade matcha with a wide grin on her face. Both girls were holding hands with Izuku, who himself was laughing at the ridiculous face Hanako had made as she took the picture. Might this be the elusive Gen Ed lover? "Please don't bother her, Ishido. She doesn't do well around most people," Izuku warned, not noticing Shiozaki glared at him. After that, they went to Iri's room. There were many pink and cute decorations, some toys, and a bunch of drawings on the wall. The girls all cooed at the adorable room. "These are my drawings of Nai-chan," Iri announced happily. Some people fainted due to a sudden need for insulin. Rin's room had a distinct Chinese theme to it. Honki's room had lots of books. Shinso's room was kind of plain, with the exception of some merchandise from lesser-known heroes. To Izuku's great amusement, he saw a statuette of Aizawa that had only been on sale for 2 days before the Erasure Hero had shut that whole thing down. Tetsu's room, to Izuku's almost complete lack of surprise, was an almost exact copy of Kirishima's room, just with more blue than red. He honestly didn't know whether Nezu was just fucking with everyone when it came to those two. Finally, they came to Kuroyume's room. It was dark, but unlike Takuyami's, didn't look like it belonged on display at a Hot Topic. There was a model of Tiger from the Wild Wild Pussycats, and they all took note that he had a pretty impressive movie collection. "I like movies, Sumi." Though Izuku couldn't help but notice that Yume seemed intent on steering everyone away from his clothing drawers. With that, they made their way over to the girls' wing. When they got to Achako's room, it was mostly the same as the original timeline, but with more pictures and a few merchandise items she had gotten as gifts. Mina had noticed the group picture from their junior high graduation on Achako's nightstand. Izuku also had a copy of that picture, but the frame had gotten broken during the move, so he was waiting on a new one to be delivered. And who might these be? Friends from junior high. Achako answered. The black-haired girl, Yuzumaro-san, and the girl in the cloak, Ryu-san, are in the business course. The spider girl, Yumara-san, goes to Yumainko Academy. Yuzumaru. Momo spoke up. "I remember that name. Their family owns the largest pharmaceutical company in the country. But didn't they change their name to Hirokone? You can call her Hirokone if you want to get your teeth knocked out." Achako hummed. "She really doesn't like that name." Momo nodded. "I see. I'll keep that in mind. Other than that, she's a pretty nice girl. I was wary at first, but now that I've gotten to know her, she's a pretty good friend. Also, don't bring up her parents. That's another topic she doesn't like." Mina looked at the photo curiously, nothing that Yujimaru and Yumara looked familiar for some reason. Weird, she would have thought she'd have remembered, especially since the spider girl was actually pretty hot. She shrugged, then they continued to the next room. Komori's room had a humidifier and some pots with mushrooms in it, as well as a bunch of books about fungus. Tsunotori's room was Western-themed, with a few posters and merchandise of American heroes scattered about the place. Izuku geeked over her limited-run star and striped banner hanging over her bed. Shiozaki was the only person to opt out of the contest, stating that she didn't feel comfortable letting certain people into her room. When all was said and done, they had gathered in the living room to vote on the best room. And the best room, with an incredible 14 votes, is. Mina pulled out the slip of paper. To read, the little girl's eyes sparkled as Ochako placed a flower crown on her head. Izuku couldn't help but grin. He wondered how the others were settling in. 10th exclamation. Exclamation, get it off exclamation. Get it off exclamation. AI wailed, running around the 1J dorms with one of Cethilla's pets snapping turtles, Balboa clamping down on her finger. Cethilla sighed as she held her other snapping turtle, Creed. She really should have asked what species they were before sticking her hand into the terrarium to pet them. 10th AI was sleeping with a purring kitty on her chest. That was it. 10th hello Murai. Toshinori sighed as he sat across from his former psychic. Toshinori. I was surprised when you arranged a meeting this late. What seems to be troubling you? The skeletal man sighed. I'll be blunt, I need you to use your quirk on me. Night Eye blinked. Pardon? With young Midoriya's own copy of One for All coming back with him, and the revelation that it's too dangerous to pass on to someone who already has a quirk, my options have become slim, and even with the power boost from One for All, I'm afraid my time as a hero is running short. I see. You want me to look into your future to see if you find your ninth wielder? Yes, please. Have you not considered maybe having your user quirk on you? Toshinori sighed. I had considered it, but the process in which she accumulates energy is quite slow. I'd much prefer she save her energy for an absolute emergency than giving an old man a few extra years. Oh, think about it like this. Say I do ever restore me to my physical prime, then the next day, someone we know suffers a deadly injury that only Youngeri's quirk can undo, but she has already used up her energy on me. I'd rather not take the chance, slim as it might be. First, suppose I can understand the reasoning. But what about those two quirkless girls? Young Haji has made it very clear she is scared of receiving a quirk from someone else after what happened to her best friend. And young Midoriya has told me that, given young Yuzumaru's trauma, simply offering her the quirk may be a terrible idea, he sighed. Besides, neither girl wants to be a hero anyway. Night Eye sighed. Very well, Toshinori, hold still. Night Eye reached out, grabbing Toshinori's hand and looking into his eyes. After a moment, he frowned, pulling back. What's wrong? It was too fuzzy. I couldn't make out a thing. Night Eye leaned back. I'm sorry, Toshinori, but I don't think you'll be finding your ninth for quite a long while. Toshinori sighed. I suppose it was worth a shot. Thanks anyway, Murai. I spoke to Yukio. Night Eye said suddenly. Neji Hato's family has expressed concern about Yuhei. They say she's closed herself off and won't even talk to them after her encounter with Midoriya. He put his head in his hands. I implore you to keep a close eye on that girl. I fear she may do something drastic. I will. Thanks for the heads up. 10th orientation : hello. Am I a dog, a bear, a mouse? Who cares? I have 6 cults in my name. Neji cackled. They contribute to about 20% of this school's funding. Sensei. Kendo whispered. Does he do this speech every year? No, of course not. Vlad answered. Last year it was 7 cults. I think 2 of them merged or something. And I see that Class 1 has decided to join us this year. Neji chirped. And not a single student expelled. That's a new record. Anyway, welcome to UA. I'm the principal. Now, before we get started, let's talk about what you as students are to expect here at school. First off, some of you may notice a little girl wandering around campus. Please do not bother her. She is right where she needs to be. She, on the other hand, is free to bother you if she feels the need. Neji cackled. About an hour of endless taking later, Neds would finally dismiss them, and their teachers gave them a tour of campus. 10th, this was so unfair. Mine deceived. He deserved to be in the hero course more than any of those assholes. How else was he supposed to get popular with the girls? There weren't even any girls in his class for some stupid reason. And all this bullshit about being on academic probation. He couldn't believe his parents agreed to that so easily. It wasn't fair. He cast a jealous glance toward the first-year hero course students, then raised an eyebrow. With Class 1A holding the hand of All Might's apprentice was a little girl, probably the one the stupid principal had been talking about. He couldn't help but feel jealous over how the girls all seemed to be cooing over her. That should be him, damn it. Mine had to admit, though, the kid had the makings of a total looker. He could not wait to see what she looked like in 10 years. 10 Shoto. Shoto stopped, turning to see a familiar and quite unexpected face come up to him. Fayumi, what are you doing here? Oh, my bad. I must have forgotten to tell you, his sister laughed. The principal hired me as an on-site tutor. Apparently there's a little girl on the grounds for protection and she needs schooling, so I'm going to be living on campus too. Dad had to hire a housekeeper when I told him, but I don't think he minded. So we'll be seeing each other a lot. Shoto glanced over at Class A, where he could see Midoriya holding a little girl's hand. He frowned. 10th Nezu looked up as someone stumbled over to him. What can I do for you, Miss Heya? Why is Izuku Midoriya here? Yu practically shrieked. Thankfully, everyone had cleared out at this point. Nezu blinked. Why? Because he is a student, of course. He passed the recommendation exam fair and square, so of course he is. He's a murderer. Yu interrupted. He got Nejire killed. Miss Hay, Nezu calmly explained. I understand that humans tend to act out when experiencing grief. Please understand that no one is more at fault for Nejire Hato's death than me. I approved her for that raid despite knowing of her emotional health. It was a terrible lapse in judgment that You're all just protecting him. Yu shrieked. He got her killed. He disgraced her memory by lying and saying she's part of his quirk now, and you all just put him up on a goddamn pedestal. All because he has a powerful quirk. All because All Might made him his apprentice. It isn't right. Neju sighed. Miss Heya, I am scheduling you for mandatory appointments with Hound Duck. Why, I'm not crazy, Principal Nezu. Your grief has made you unreasonable. I am only doing this to try and help you, not hurt you. This is not up for discussion. 10th man, this school is so big. Komori sighed as she flopped onto the couch. Due to orientation, today was a half day. Yet it makes me wonder where the school gets its funding. Kaminari spoke up. Apparently some of it comes from Nezu cults. Gyro sighed. Then she thought of something. Hey Midoriya, I've been meaning to ask, but haven't we met before? Oh yeah, last year at my school's festival. You ate at the restaurant my class set up. Gyro nodded. Yeah, I kinda figured. Sorry, there was a hectic week. It's fine. That food was pretty good. Who made that anyway? Oh, it was all. Eh? The class turned as the blue-haired girl appeared at the entrance to the dorm. She went red at the sudden attention, quickly shuffling towards Achako and handing her something. What's this? She opened the paper, her eyes going wide. Is this 13's autograph? She's my homeroom teacher, so I thought that. Thank you, AA. Achako squeaked, grabbing AI's face and planting a deep kiss. Mina and Hagakure squealed. It's fine. AI replied, her voice high. I know, how much you like T13 so first. AI fainted. Achako leaned down and carefully picked up AI. Izuku, let's go to your room. Oh, sure. This is highly inappropriate. It is sputtered. I do not like the idea of you three being alone in Midoriya's room, especially given that one of you is unconscious. We are here to be heroes, and we should strive to. Achako began. Yes, you're Raka-san. Shut up. And she and Izuku carried AI up to his room, leaving it a sputtering mess. Tamura was angry. Sensei had become really dismissive of him since that rewind brat came onto the scene. It wasn't fair. He was supposed to be Sensei's successor, wasn't he? And then there was Kurogiri, someone who, despite all the threats, Tamura actually held very dear to him, reduced to a mindless shell. He was especially pissed off because you had installed some kind of field around the campus that stopped people from warping or teleporting in. Not that it mattered. All Might, his protege, and the Rewind Brat were all on campus, and Amira had a plan. Tenko. Chapter 34. Izuku yawned as he got up the next morning, making sure to wake Eri up before the two of them made their way downstairs. Morning Ochako yawned, pecking Izuku on the cheek and ruffling Eri's hair. Mina would have squealed, but she needed at least a cup and a half of coffee to properly function. Good thing we don't have to get up as early since we're on school grounds, huh? That is unacceptable. Ida called, somehow fully awake. The student should always wake up at least 2 hours before. Yes, Ishido-san. Shut up. Ida sputtered as Mina downed her coffee in one go. How do you think AI is doing? Ochako asked. 10th AI was half asleep as she made her way into the common room. One of her classmates, a boy with short, red hair, scrambled for something. Oh, wait, hold on a C. AI's fist met his jaw, sending him flying across the room. I'm so sorry! Exclamation. AI wailed, suddenly wide awake. I honestly don't know why I did that! Exclamation. Hey, calm down. It's not your fault. It's actually mine, the boy assured, pulling a cloth mask over his face to hide a rapidly forming bruise. My quirk causes anyone who sees my face to punch me. I wear this mask to stop it, and I just forgot to put it in this morning. Honest, you didn't do anything wrong. Dude, your quirk sucks. A girl who looked like a small black cat spoke up. Nobody could figure out if she was an animal with an intelligence quirk or a human who just looked like a cat. They were afraid to ask. The boy sighed. Yeah, I know. I was born with it too. My mom was threatening to sue the hospital before they figured out what was going on. He rubbed his jaw. Man, you hit hard. You got some minor strength enhancement quirk or something. AI stiffened. I'm going to get changed. AI said quietly as she turned and went back upstairs. 10 soon, the class was ready and we're heading out the door. The tutor Nedzu assigned will be here in about an hour. Izuku told Eri gently, before whispering so the rest couldn't hear. Thankfully, Gyro had already left the building. It's Todoroki's sister, so you can trust her, okay? Just sit and watch some anime until then. Okay, Nai-chan, Eri said, hugging him. Nothing recommended by Mina, though. Izuku reiterated as he left. 10th, the class schedule for the hero courses differed depending on class. Class B had hero training in the morning, then went on to do normal classes for the second half of the day. For Class A, it was the other way around, having their heroics classes after lunchtime, so naturally, most of Class 1 was excited during that time. Izuku sighed, stepping out with a bowl of katsudon as he waited for Ochako to get her lunch. In the original timeline, her options for school lunch was limited due to her being on a budget. This time around, Izuku insisted on getting her a special debit card for school lunch. She was resistant to the idea at first, but relented when he told her the money came from All Might and that the symbol of peace wanted her to get a good meal in before her training. Eventually, she came out with some steamed fish and white rice. They then found an empty table, where they were soon joined by AI and Cthella. It may be a new school, but they were all still friends. Maybe they could get some of their classmates to join them. After a few minutes, AI quietly planted herself in between Izuku and Ochako, which of course was Mina's cue to make a beeline for their table. Hey guys. Mina blinked, turning to see AI's accusing glare. Meet last October I was tied up in a tree and you just walked away. I ended up pissing myself before I was finally let down. Mina blinked owlishly. I don't recall. AI just sputtered. Tensori. Fayumi began as Eri ate her lunch. What kind of things do you like? I like apples, and I like Nai-chan, Eri said happily. Fayumi laughed. Is that so? I also like Kota-kun. He's my friend, but for some reason he always turns red and gets a fever when I talk to him. Is he sick? Fayumi blinked. Living with Endeavor as a father gave her little experience with these types of things. 10th Bakugo was pissed. They had done costume evaluations for their first heroics class, and that damn vampire ended up confiscating his explosive gauntlets, saying that potentially lethal weapons like that weren't available until second year and wondering who the hell even approved them. This meant he couldn't go all out without hurting his arms. Then the vampire went on a stupid tangent about how they should be trying to capture villains and should only use lethal damage as an absolute last resort. At least the vampire took one look at Half and Half's costume and said, quote, "What the fuck am I looking at?" All in all, a shitty first heroics class. He hoped Deku had an even worse time. 10th outside of UA grounds, a rift opened up and a small girl stepped out, looking around in confusion. Anti-warping field. I guess that makes sense. Ron returned and concentrated. Not that it'll stop me, though. She wanted to see Izuku's first heroics lesson in this timeline, and damn it, she was going to see it. With a little bit of concentration, she forced open a rift directly onto UA grounds before casually stepping through. 10th, the class sat in excitement, all except a certain few wondering who their heroics teacher would be. "I am coming through the door like a hero," All Might called as he burst through the door into the classroom wearing his Silver Age costume as a treat to the students that gaped at him excitedly. "Welcome to your first heroics lesson, students. I know you're probably excited, so I won't waste much of your time." He pressed a button, causing the costume racks to slide from the walls. "Go ahead and put these on, then let's meet out at Gym Gamma." The class scurried excitedly for their costumes before moving to the changing room. Izuku was pretty much the only one who got his costume from my island, the rest of the students getting their costumes from companies based in Japan. Everyone's costumes were the same as the previous timeline. Kuryum wore a black jumpsuit and gloves with a hood that has glowing eyes and a set of jagged false teeth attached, most likely meant to induce fear. Izuku couldn't help but notice that Yum seemed insistent on changing in one of the shower stalls, despite Tetsu's affirmations that he shouldn't be ashamed of his body. As they made their way out to Gym Gamma, Izuku was especially excited to see Achako's costume. No, he wasn't being a perv. He had stayed up all night with her helping to design her new costume and was excited by the outcome. Rounding the corner, he saw that her costume looked exactly the same as the original timeline. At least she looked just as confused as he was. She stumbled over to him, not used to walking in heels. "Do you have the original design sketch on you?" "Oh yeah, give me a second." "Well, look at you all." All Might called as he walked out with some Mentos. "They say clothes make the hero, and you all definitely fit the mold. However, your costumes may not be quite as practical as you may think. Today, we'll be doing costume evaluations and running an obstacle course to determine how well your costumes hold up in the field. It would be quite terrible to discover that your suit inhibits you in some way at the worst possible moment. Young Midoriya, you've already seen action in that costume. No problems. Not any that I've noticed. In that case, why don't you run the obstacle course first, then afterwards sit and watch your classmates as they run it. Use those analytical skills of yours to pick out any problems they may not notice." Izuku nodded. "I have Semenos here because Gym Gamma is basically his playground, so if there's any specific obstacles you'd like to test, let him know." "Sensei, yes, young Uraraka. My costume doesn't match the design I sent him. Like at all." All Might blinked, surprised. "Do you have an original copy of the designs as well as the revisions?" Achako handed said papers to him, and as he looked him over, he began to understand why Izawa was always so fed up with everything. The original design Achako had sent in called for more protective padding, definitely not asking for a skin-tight bodysuit. On top of that, it had special boots that stored air every time she took a step that she could release to move around more easily in the air, no doubt inspired by Gran Torino's quirk. Those had been replaced with heels containing springs that were supposed to cushion her landings. In theory, those sounded like a good idea. Realistically, though, All Might knew running around in heels required training, and he could already see that Achako was struggling just to walk around. All Might felt a headache coming on. The contracts you had with the support companies allowed them to make some minor modifications if they deemed it necessary. Much bigger modifications were allowed, but had to be cleared with the student in question first. To outright ignore the design Achako had sent in and not even ask for her input was just begging for trouble. "Right, okay, we'll get this sorted out, young Uraraka. Go change into some more comfortable shoes before you twist your ankle." Has anyone else had a problem with their designs being ignored? My outfit is far more revealing than I'm comfortable with. Momo spoke up. I'm pretty sure these are just regular clothes you can buy at the store, Gyro explained. Didn't ask for saddle. Pony explained in her limited Japanese. Then she switched to English. Like, seriously, is it because of my mutations? Cause if so, I actually find that pretty offensive. I sent in hair and skin cells for a DNA-encoded costume, but they said it was too difficult to make and just sent me boots and gloves. Everyone blanched. Young Hagakure, are you naked? All Might asked. Yes, it was the only way I could make use of my quirk with what they gave me. Oh, Nedzu was going to have a field day with the support companies. 10th, once Hagakura's changed into her gym clothes, as per All Might's instructions, they began doing the obstacle course, allowing Izuku to pick out less obvious problems with their costume. After compiling a list, he let everyone know how their costumes could be improved, pointing out how Momo's bookshelf could break her spine if she fell wrong and suggesting grounding rods for Kaminari's costume to try and lessen the drawback from his quirk. However, when he gave Shiozaki some notes on her costume, she just glared at him and took the notes without saying anything. Why did he have the feeling Shiozaki didn't like him? 10th, Ronri was bored. Apparently, All Might getting his teaching license actually made him a decent teacher, so no battle trials yet. She did enjoy watching Izuku's analysis of his classmate's costume. He was so smart. She also made a note to keep an eye on Shiozaki. She wasn't going to let her hurt Izuku if she has any say in the matter. She stood from her place in the rafters, stretching before going to see if there was anyone worth harassing in this timeline. Maybe she could prank Endeavor. Ibara was angry. When she heard about this Ai Haji and how shy and anxious she was, the first thing that crossed her mind was that Midoriya and Uraraka had to be taking advantage of the poor girl. Ibara's father was a minister, and she recognized the signs of someone who had suffered abuse. Ai Haji definitely checked those flags. Not to mention how utterly sinful their three-way relationship was in the first place. She would protect that poor girl if it was the last thing she did.
Well, I think I maybe can do one more, probably. Probably not, actually. Or yeah, I could, actually, depending how long it is.
Endeavor
Oh, the how. That's pretty short. This is,
has gone on to say that the man who recreated the Marilyn Monroe photo was not him, but in fact an imposter. The number 2 hero has offered a reward for any information regarding the identity of the imposter. More at 11. The TV switched off, Tamura sitting in silence before pushing himself up. Tamura's phone buzzed, and he picked up. Yes, what is it? Tamura Shigaraki. Garaki's voice sounded over the phone. A man has just shown up claiming to be answering a recruitment ad you put out on the black market. What is the meaning of this? Do me a favor and send him to the meeting room, will you? Are you amassing an army behind All for One's back? Of all the reckless? Don't worry about it, Doctor. I have a plan that'll get me back in Sensei's good book. Just let me do my thing. All for One will be furious when he hears about this boy. Oh, and who's gonna tell him? You, let's face it, Doctor, you put on a good show, but you're a coward at heart. You can't imagine what I'll do to you if you piss me off. After all, Sensei says it's my right to destroy whatever I don't like, and on that note, let me borrow some Namo. From what I understand, the anti-symbol of peace should be about ready yet. So I have looked into the support companies and inquired about how they had failed so spectacularly with our students' costume. Neji chirped. Oh yeah? How'd that go? Aizawa asked. In the case of young Gyro, the company that handled her costume also makes civilian clothing. Apparently, they've been swamped with work recently and sent her a civilian outfit by accident. It's an accident that would have gotten her killed in the field. Aizawa huffed. True, but the company was quite apologetic, refunding the full price of the costume and promising it would arrive in the next 48 hours. I've decided to let this one slide. And the other companies. Kaminari's was a simple design error. Tsunotori's design company thought the saddle would have been a nice touch, but were quite apologetic when they learned she was actually quite offended by it. It's Hagakure, Yaoyorozu, and Uraraka's costumes where the headaches started coming in. The company responsible for Hagakure's design went through some changes in management since last year, and the new head designer wants to cut costs and thought that since Hagakure is invisible, there would be no need to make her an actual costume. Never mind that it leaves her completely vulnerable, or even that she's a 15-year-old girl. Aizawa huffed. Yes, this is simply a case of someone being promoted to a position they are not qualified for. Happens all the time, unfortunately. Luckily, the company itself treats UA threatening to revoke their contract as a big deal. The head designer is no longer employed at that company, and they have promised a suit within the next week. Luckily, they still have Hagakure's DNA samples. Yaoyorozu's, I would say, is by far the worst. Apparently, the head designer at the company is infamous for over-sexualizing the costumes of female students. I don't like where this is heading. I hacked into his personal computer. Apparently, he spends quite a bit of time on the dark web. Not in itself illegal. In fact, I know there are more than a few underground hero forums only accessible through the dark web. The problem comes from his personal files. I won't go into detail, but know that I have sent a squadron of police his way, and the company's reputation will likely take massive hit. Your rock is similar to Hagakure's in that it is a case of someone being promoted to a position they are unqualified for. In this case, the person in question is a sexist, egotistical man who thinks he knows better than everyone else. When I pointed out how him completely ignoring Uraraka's design was a breach of contract, he insisted it was because her original design wasn't flashy enough. She wasn't going for flashy, she was going for practical. Yes, that's what I told him. I won't tell you his response, but it made me cut ties with the company on the spot. I have also sent a recording of the call to the company's higher-ups. We have gotten in touch with another company that was happy to take over her costume design for the same prices as the original. Her costume should arrive around the same time as Hagakure's. UA has been with some of these companies for years, and it is sad that circumstances have come to pass. Regardless, we must continue moving forward. 10th, I wonder why we have to have these representative meetings so late. Izuku mused. Most likely to not interfere in our school time. Momo mused. Makes sense. They made their way into the room, where they were met with an assortment of characters. Izuku even spotted Yu-san near the back of the room. Oh, you guys must be one. An orange-haired girl called, coming over to them. I'm Itsuka Kendo, the representative for 1B. Showed over there is my vice representative. She waved a hand over at the short boy. I'm Izuku Midoriya. This is Momoye Urazu. Izuku introduced. Oh, trust me, pretty much everyone knows who you are, the apprentice of All Might. Kendo laughed, then yawned. Sorry, I'm kinda tired. There are a few guys in my class who are the very definition of problem children. I'd like to apologize for Bakugo. Izuku sighed. We both attended one of those MLA schools. Kendo hummed. I guess that makes sense, but it doesn't excuse his attitude. On that note, I'd like to apologize in advance for Nito Monoma. I don't know why, but he has some unhealthy obsession with your class. I've tried to talk to Vlad Sensei about it, but he insists that a healthy rivalry never hurt anyone. He calls that healthy, Izuku thought. As Kendo began to strike up a conversation with Momo, a small, black cat strode up to them. Hi, I'm Nana Machizuki, the representative for 1E OAI's class. Nana blinked. You know Haji-san, girlfriend, Paula Q. I see. I did not expect her to be the type of person for a relationship. She's always so quiet and timid. I assume her quirk situation has something to do with it. You know, it's the shoes. Most people don't actually pay attention to those, you know. Don't worry, I won't bully her or anything. I've been made fun of for my appearance a lot in the past, so I understand in a way. Does that imply that you're not a quirked animal? Nana chuckled. Yes, I'm as human as everyone else in this room. You need look no further than my twin sister, the representative for 1H. She pointed a paw at a teenage girl with black hair, cat ears, and a tail who was chatting loudly. Like, seriously, how the hell do you blow up a desk with a magnet, a needle, a cork, and a cup of water? That chick's insane. I can already tell your personalities are like night and day. Izuku mused. Yes, she's the favored twin. 10th, after a couple of hours, the meeting let out, and Izuku and Momo were making their way out when the cat girl stepped in front of them. Hi, I'm Aya Machizuki from 1H. Here's my number, she said, shoving a paper into Izuku's hands. Call me OK Cutie. Is that really necessary? Momo asked. You and Midoriya barely know each other. Can it hussy? I'm trying to score here. Aya snapped. Momo looked aghast. Izuku frowned. I have 2 girlfriends already. He gave her the paper back. And I know you could do so much better than either of them. She tucked the paper into his jacket pocket. Call me when you want to have a good time. She skipped off. Izuku pulled the paper out, looked at the phone number written on it, rolled his eyes, and channeled one for all into his hand, letting the energy tear the paper to shreds. The bitch. 10th, Izuku and Momo made their way into the dorms. Hey guys, dinner's almost done. Tetsu called. Izuku looked around. Where's Yum-san? He's bathing, Shinso explained. By himself. For some reason, he seemed uncomfortable bathing with the other guys and insisted on bathing alone. Izuku walked over to Uri, who was coloring. So how was Fayumi? She was really nice, Uri chirped. She taught me how to math. I think I'm better than Denki Nai. Did I say that right, Kyoka ni? Kaminari blanched. Gyro snorted. Izuku patted Uri's head. You'll have to show me after dinner, K. Okay, Nai-chan. 10th the next day, colon. Seriously. It's the 3rd day. Why now? Azawa huffed as he glared at the crowd of reporters standing at the school gates. Tell us what All Might as a teacher is like. One reporter demanded. Please send him out for an interview. Another shouted. All Might isn't working today. Vacate the premises now. Ectoplasm called. All Might was on campus, but he had a checkup with Recovery Girl scheduled for today, so technically Ectoplasm was telling the truth. We just want one interview, a reporter shouted. All Might will make interviews on his own time. Leave, Vlad called. One reporter pushed forward. Onto a different subject then. The reporter began. What do you have to say regarding the rumors that UA has accepted 3 quirkless students this year? Not only that, but several students with villainous quirks have been accepted into the hero course. Would the #1 hero school really stoop so low as to... The crowd as a whole flinched back as Azawa activated his quirk. You have already been told to vacate the premises multiple times. By law, you are all trespassing. If you do not vacate the premises within 10 minutes, the police will be notified. With that, the teacher strode through the gates. I demand that you answer my question regarding the reporter jumped back as the UA barrier slammed shut. How did they even find out about the students? Midnight asked. I don't know, but the rat's sure as hell going to find out, Aizawa growled. 10th Izuku tapped his pencil against his desk as Aizawa strode into the classroom looking more tired than usual. For those of you who have had issues with your costumes not being up to snuff, the problem should be fixed within the next couple of weeks. The man sighed. On another note, in a couple of days, we'll be taking a field trip to work on your rescue training. The class cheered, then quieted as Aizawa activated his quirk. Some of you may think rescue work only applies to rescue heroes, but that's far from true. The number of combat-focused heroes outweighs the number of rescue heroes, so expect to be called into rescue operations more than a few times. Naturally, you do have the option to refuse these operations at the cost of your reputation. It's illogical to try and be a hero with only one specialty. Even I've done a few rescue operations in my time. He pulled out a stack of papers. Now, class rep, vice rep, I need you to. Boom, attention, level 3 security is now in progress. Aizawa made his way over to the windows. Did those damn reporters manage to get through the barrier? Looking out the window, he froze. It wasn't the reporters. Streaming through the UA gates were at least 100 or so villains, with Tamura Shigaraki cackling madly in the center. Doctor, where's Kurogiri? Garaki froze. Well, I'm waiting. And what happened to the anti-symbol of peace you were working on? I'm so sorry, my lord. Garaki groveled. Tamura. I tried to stop him. I really did. All for One was silent for a moment before he spoke lowly. Well then, I guess we'll have to wait and see how this pans out and decide whether or not to punish Tamura from there. Chapter 36. This isn't a drill, Aizawa said loudly as he whirled around. Villains have broken through the front gate. The students all tensed. Stay calm. All of you need to stay in here. And Sensei Blackwhoop shot out, yanking Aizawa away from the window just as an inhuman creature crashed through it. Izuku immediately recognized it as the winged Namu from Hasu in the original timeline. Change of plans. All of you, get out of here, Aizawa called as he tried to hold the Namu back. Get to the dorms and activate the security protocols. I'm giving you permission to use your quirks, but only if you deem a fight unavoidable. Midoriya, you have a provisional license and will probably go fight regardless of what I tell you. He already left. Achako called as she and the others fled through the door. Aizawa rolled his eyes as he focused on the Namu. Problem child. Tent Tashinori looked down at the school grounds in shock as villains poured through the gate. Sorry, Chio. The checkup's gonna have to wait, he said as he buffed up. The old woman scoffed. Just try not to overdo it. And use the All Might crashed through the window as he left to intercept the villains. Door 10th Mizo Shoji panted as he turned a corner. In their haste to get to the dorms, the students had run into some villains that had gotten into the building and were separated. Around that time, the school sprinkler system started going off for no reason. I hear one up here, an unfamiliar voice called. Crap, it got one. A pair of villains had come out from a nearby corner. This one's got a mutant meta ability. Meta ability? Were they from the MLA? He guessed he couldn't have expected every single one of them to be captured. At least a few had to have slipped through the cracks. Shoji got into a fighting position, knowing this was going to be tough. Several tentacles shot out from behind a corner, grabbing the startled villains and dragging them out of sight. Shoji winced as he heard the sounds of a brutal beating, along with the villains screaming. When the villains had been reduced to mere whimpering, the sounds stopped and a girl stepped out. She was wearing a UA uniform, but also had a cloak wrapped around her body. The cloak's hood was currently down, revealing her face. Her eyes looked like a normal human's, except for the pupils, which were dumbbell-shaped, similar to an octopus, and her mouth was lined with rows of razor-sharp teeth. In place of hair were more tentacles, though these ones were lined with spikes similar to a vampire squid. She also had what appeared to be gills along her neck. Cethilla U: Quirk Deep 1. On top of enhancing her physical and mental capabilities, she can also extend the tentacles that make up her arms and hair up to 40 feet. She can use the spikes on her hair tentacles to inject her own blood into foes, which acts as a minor paralytic. She tires out very easily when her skin is dry. Oh, hello there, Shoji greeted. I'm Mizo Shoji, HM. Sithela acknowledged. Shoji recognized her as one of Midoriya and Uraraka's friends, even if he had never seen her face. The cloak was a giveaway. Sithela, you're friends with Midoriya and Uraraka, right? They're good friends. Shoji blinked. It would seem this girl wasn't much for conversation. It's kind of weird how the sprinklers just started going off, huh? Shoji asked awkwardly. I asked some crazy chick in 1H to turn them on. Sithila responded. Why? I thrive in the wet. Yeah, probably could have worded that differently. Sithila began to pad her way down the hall, and Shoji followed her with a shrug. 10 theory. Izuku burst into the dorm, only to be smacked in the face with a wave of ice. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Fayumi apologized when she realized Izuku wasn't a villain. No, it's okay. You did good. A second of hesitation could be fatal. Izuku explained as he used full cowling to break out of the ice. Yuri ran up and hugged him, tears in her eyes. I can't stay long, so listen. Izuku went over to a panel on the wall and hit a few buttons. Screens popped out of the wall, showing the major entrances to the dorm as an electromagnetic barrier erupted around the building. Ned's with these security protocols installed on the dorm buildings just in case. The barrier will cause temporary paralysis to anyone who touches them. He pointed to a green button. This will open a small part of the barrier to let people in. Use it to let any students who come here in. The barrier will only stay open for as long as the button is held down. Izuku finished as he went to the door. Where are you going? Yuri asked, scared. It's going to be okay, Yuri, I promise. Izuku soothed. I'm going to help the teachers fend off the villains. I promise I won't let them take you. Izuku made his way out. If Shigaraki had even a bit of sense, he would try to take out the school's anti-warp generator and use Kurogiri to make a quick getaway. Nezu told me the generator had security that would hold a candle to Tartarus, so I hope it holds up that. 10th, where the hell is this generator thing? One villain asked as they looked around the dark hallway. Beats me. It should be near the center of campus to get the best coverage. Another mused. Well, let's hurry up and find it. I don't want to be on the receiving end of one of that man-child's tantrums. The two villains froze at the sound of heavy breathing. Slowly, they turned. To most people, the devil was a small mammal of indeterminate origin. To these two unfortunate souls, the devil was a teenage girl with pink dreadlocks and crosshair-shaped eyes. Are you here to test out my new babies? It's true what they say. In Class 1H, no one can hear you scream. 10th, surrender, villains. Because I am here, All Might shouted, slamming into the ground, the shockwave sending villains flying. Shigaraki scratched at his neck in annoyance. All Might? Tamura Shigaraki, the mountain of man, grimaced as he straightened up. I must say, an all-out assault on UA goes far beyond your normal brand of recklessness. Reckless. No, because I have a way to kill you and wipe that smug smile off your face once and for all. Let me guess, your little anti-symbol of peace. Young Midoriya told me all about it, how its quirks are shock absorption and super regeneration. Shigaraki began to laugh. Oh, you're so naive, All Might. Namu. The hulking mass slammed into the ground between Shigaraki and All Might. While it's true Namu here has those two quirks, once Sensei figured out the green-haired brat was playing on New Game Plus, he had even more quirks added. What a steel-like skin, hypertrophy, kinetic booster, impact recoil, iron knuckles. This Namu was well and truly designed as an anti-symbol of peace. Namu, kill All Might. The abomination launched forward toward the startled number 1 as Shigaraki turned. Now that that's dealt with, time to find the rewind brat Sensei so obsessed with. 10th, now this is what I'm talking about. Bakugo had a manic grin as he blasted a pair of villains. What are you doing? Sensei said to only fight as a last resort. We need to get to the dorms. Kendo reprimanded. Shut up, orange hair. Bakugo snapped. You're not the boss of me. Dude, she's the class rep, Bondo called, only for Bakugo to launch himself toward another group of villains. Tenth, it took only a couple of minutes for Shoji to realize that Sephila wasn't being dismissive of him or anything. It appeared that, despite her intelligence, she seemed to merely be a quiet and socially awkward girl. He found it a bit endearing, to be honest. There's some group of villains appeared around a corner. I saw the tentacle one take out some of our guys. Is she in the hero course? No, the buttons on her shoulders suggest she's in business. A towering figure pushed her way to the front of the villains. A 9-foot-tall wall of a woman, a heteromorph given that she looked like an anthropomorphic alligator with massive muscles, dangerous-looking jaw, and a thick tail that could easily send someone flying. The other one, though, he's definitely in the hero course. Hey boy, which class are you in? Ha, I'm in 1A. Why does it matter? The gator woman gave a grin. Leave them to me. But one villain began, only for them all to flee as the gator woman snapped her jaws at them. So tell me, how many students has Racerhead expelled this year? This woman knew Aizawa-sensei. He hasn't expelled any on us. That's so. The gator woman hummed. You know, usually when he expels students, he re-enrolls them soon afterwards, but keeps a black mark on their records. Something about pushing them to give their all or some bullshit. But me. The woman lowered her jaws, a dangerous grin on her face. My name's Rika Hayato, and I was one of the lucky few he kicked out permanently. She lunged. Ten Shigaraki looked around the campus, trying to find where the rewind brat would be hiding when he noticed a person of definite interest. He landed, and AI scrambled back, startled. I know you. Shigaraki inched forward, his hand outstretched. You're the one Sensei gave the terror quirk to. His pupils dilated. Sensei doesn't like loose ends. He lunged forward, grabbing her hand. I could only scream as her hand began turning to dust. I'm gonna go now, loose end. Take care. AI dropped to the ground, screaming herself hoarse as Shigaraki took off, his decay slowly crawling up her arm. After a few seconds, a group of hands grabbed her, trying to hold her down. Kamakiri, we need to take it off. Shouldn't we break the bone first? No time. The elbow. Cut it at the joint. I screams renewed as the large blade cleaved through her elbow, severing everything below as the removed limb turned to blood and dust. We need to stop the bleeding. Can we make a tourniquet? We need to get her to Recovery Girl. I don't know, guys. With all these villains around, can we really protect her and ourselves at the same time? Wait, Todoroki, you have fire too, right? We need you to cauterize the wound before she bleeds out. No, I will never use my left side. Hanako yawned, deciding to work on her homework during free period. This sucked. She missed her friends, and Yumineko Academy was just full of a bunch of prissy assholes. Oh my God, are you seeing this? A girl near the back called. Hanako paid no mind. What's going on? The news. An army of villains broke onto UA campus. Now that caught Hanako's attention. What? Chapter 37. Is everyone seeing this? The reporter shouted over the noise of the helicopter rotors as the camera panned down to the school. Villains are storming the UA campus. It's complete chaos. We have visual on All Might fighting some massive villain, but it looks like the symbol of peace is struggling. How can anyone be this strong? 10th All Might landed blow after blow on the Namu, but it felt like he was just punching a brick wall in his skinny form. The thing was mindless and wouldn't give. If it had just been shock absorption and super regeneration, he could have easily beaten the Namu with a massive flurry of punches. As it stood, though, the additional quirks made that far more difficult, especially impact recoil, as it kept throwing some of the damage All Might caused right back at him. He had to persevere, though. He was the symbol of peace and justice. He had to win. 10th, what do you mean no? Kirishima growled as Todoroki stood by stoically. I will never use my father's flames, so forget it. What the hell, Todoroki? She's gonna bleed out if we don't do something. Takage snapped. Cauterizing the wound is the best thing we can do right now. Are you seriously just going to let her die for some stupid vow against Endeavor? I don't care what you have to say. I won't use that bastard's flames. Never, not after what he did to Natsu. A rock-hard fist slammed into Todoroki's jaw, sending him to the ground and likely cracking it. Todoroki looked up, surprised to see Kirishima standing over him angrily. I don't know what the hell's going on between you and Endeavor, and really, I don't care. You're supposed to be a hero in training, but if you're seriously willing to let an innocent person die just to spite your father, then you're no better than all these villains. The temperature dropped, frost beginning to form on Todoroki's right side. The hell are all you extras standing around for? The tension broke as Bakugo wandered into the group. Red eyes darted around, before landing on Takich tightening a cloth around Ai's arm, trying to slow the bleeding as much as possible. ECH. Bakugo stomped up to the girl, grabbed her arm, and pressed his palm up against the bloody stump. Ai's screams renewed once again as a loud pop followed with the smell of burnt flesh. "Oh, shut up, you dumb bitch!" Bakugo snapped as he dropped the cauterized limb. "Consider yourself lucky I'm feeling generous today." And then he turned, using his explosions to propel himself at another group of villains. Dabai smirked as he watched the scene unfold. He turned and walked away. It looked like he wouldn't need to work so hard at convincing Shoto to turn to villainy. Yue was already doing that for him. 10 students screamed as a massive Nam with chainsaws for arms was led around by a group of villains. Among said students was a short boy with purple balls in his head, crying his eyes out. The villains stopped as the sky suddenly seemed to grow dark. One of them looked up. Takuyami, Anadi, Kurwaro, and Yum all stared down at them. "Revelry in the dark," Takuyami spoke. "Indeed," Anadi affirmed. And with that, the 4 students launched themselves at the villains in Namu. Shoji felt himself forcefully shoved out of the way as Hayato slammed into Sifilla with the force of a truck, smashing through a wall in the process. As she looked down to see Sifilla sprawled against the floor. "Oh, that's cute." She turned to Shoji, who was staring at her wide-eyed. To think a hero course student would need protection from a business course student. Fucking pathetic. Weaklings like you shouldn't even be in the hero course. She gave a feral grin as she stared Shoji down. Aizawa's an idiot for not realizing that. That Mokuri bitch deserved what I did to her. She was just another weakling, not fit for a fucking hero course. That's why I snapped her spine and put her in a wheelchair for the rest of her life. And now I'm gonna do the same to you. Tentacles wrapped around Ioto's arms before Sifilla launched herself forward, slamming into the gator girl's back and launching her across the room. She crashed into a nearby desk before pushing herself to her feet, cackling. "Holy shit, tentacles, I actually felt that. You're more durable than you look, so why the fuck are you in the business course and not heroics?" "I've no desire to be a hero," Sifilla responded lowly. "Fucking waste of your quirk." Hayato growled, launching across the room at the girl. "Damn it, what am I doing?" Shoji thought as he watched the fight. "I'm supposed to be a hero course student, but I'm just standing here. I have to do something. If something happens to you-san, I won't be able to forgive myself," as Shoji thought as he started duplicating his arms. "The hell? Stop moving around like that." Hayato growled as Sifilla used her tentacles to fly around the room. A few times, Sifilla's hair tentacles whipped out at the gator girl, but her skin proved too tough for the spikes to penetrate. If you can't face your opponent head on, then you're just a fucking coward. Shoji took advantage of her distraction, launching himself at her and slamming multiple intertwined fists into her jaw. The gator girl stumbled before Sifilla launched herself, the massive woman, slamming her feet into her chest and sending them both crashing out a nearby window. "You-san!" Shoji gasped, rushing to the window in time to see them both crash into the school pool below. 10th Hayato was pissed. Though both of their quirks were well suited for water, the octopus girl was much faster, darting around the water faster than the gator girl could react. Angrily, she pressed her feet against the side of the pool and launched herself forward. Sifilla stopped, holding up one of her arms. Shoji could only watch in horror as a cloud of red appeared in the pool. Shigaraki stood outside the dorms. He had seen her, the rewind brat. He had briefly locked eyes with her through the window before she retreated further into the dorms with several WANA students who had taken refuge. He briefly glimpsed at the electromagnetic barrier before kneeling down and placing his hand against the ground, the concrete beginning to crumble away at his touch. He would make Sensei proud even if it was the last thing he... Izuku slammed his fist into Shigaraki's jaw, sending him flying through the air before the man-child righted himself. You damn cheater. It's not fair. You're playing on New Game Plus, but I had to use mods to keep up. I hate using mods." Izuku launched himself at Shigaraki, launching tendrils of Black Whip at him. Shigaraki dodged. The two traded blows, Izuku using Black Whip to counter Shigaraki's decay as they battled over UA grounds. What do you think's gonna happen if All for One gets Uri's quirk? Izuku shouted. He'll be able to restore his youth as he pleases, undo any permanent damage done to him. He'll be effectively biologically immortal. He'll have no need for a successor. He won't hesitate to get rid of you. Shut up. Sensei would never get rid of me. He said so himself. And since when has All for One been sincere about that kind of stuff? Shut up. At the point, Shigaraki had given up trying to decay Izuku, outright clocking him in the jaw. I want to help you, Tenko. The heroes never extended their hands to help you. Let me be the first. Shut up. My name isn't Tenko. Yet at that very moment, the Namu landed a massive blow to All Might's left side, and the symbol of peace could only cough up blood as a cloud of steam engulfed him and the Namu. What Tamura and Izuku could only watch as the steam cleared. The 10th news reporter could only look on in silent shock at the scene before her. Are you all seeing this? She could only gasp. All Might. He looks like a skeleton. All Might. No, Izuku thought as he watched the news copter capture the symbol of peace's true form. He launched himself into the direction of the fight. I have to help him. I have to fight. I have to. Hey, I can talk. Yellow spirals of energy exploded uncontrollably from Izuku's hands and feet. Chapter 38 Shoji neared the pool, Snipe trailing behind him, having run into the distressed student on the way. They both looked at the growing red plume with increasing horror. The water rippled. Snipe aimed his gun. Seathilla burst out of the water, the tentacles making up her left arm having been violently ripped off. Panting, she used the tentacles from her right arm to haul the massive gator woman out of the water. What in tarnation happened? Snipe demanded. My blood is a paralytic. Seathilla explained simply. So you let her eat your arm. The tentacles regenerate, and the other wounds. Snipe pointed at the bruises and lacerations covering Seathilla's body. They don't regenerate. Snipe sighed. Come on, I'm getting you kids to recovery, girl. Sensei. Shoji began. This woman claims to be a former U.S. student. Snipe looked closely at the gator woman beside. Yeah, Rika Hyoto. Expelled about 6 years ago after she snapped her classmate's spine. She always had this whole might makes right mentality and was pretty violent. Honestly, I'm surprised Aizawa didn't expel her sooner. How long will she be paralyzed? I do not use this facet of my quirk enough to have a definitive answer. She did consume a large amount of my blood, but she is also quite big. I cannot be sure. I'll have to come back for her. I don't have any cuffs in me at the moment, and I need to get you two to safety. An explosion shook the ground as they saw spirals of yellow energy erupt over the campus. 10th, hey, check out what I found. One of the former MLA members dragged a struggling form out of hiding. Isn't this Himoto-kun's daughter? Himoto-kun? Oh yeah, he was one of the primary editors for our revised version of Destro's book. AI lay frozen in terror as the men looked down at her. Wasn't his daughter lacking in a meta ability? Correct. The men sneered at her. What do you want to do with her? Well, even if she lacks a meta ability, she's kinda cute. The other grinned. Let's have some fun with her before we kill her. He grabbed AI by the throat, tearing open her uniform jacket as AI began to struggle. Thrash all you want, you damn defect. It won't do you any good. The mentalist freaks like you don't have any rights, so stop trying to. Foot connected with jaw as the man was sent flying, his attacker suddenly rounding on his partner. Sup, Mirko smirked, and the villain knew he was in for a bad time. Several roundhouse kicks later, and both villains were simply reduced to heaps of broken bones as Mirko gently lifted up AI. You okay, kid? Sorry I'm late. I'm not as familiar with the area. Don't worry. Other pros are on their way. So where am I taking you? Mirko's enhanced hearing just managed to catch the barely audible whisper of one adorned from the nearly catatonic girl. If you say so. Mirko launched herself in the air towards the dorm, taking a moment to look at AI's face. Her eyes widened in recognition. Wait, I know you. 10th Izuku grit his teeth as wave motion poured uncontrollably from his limbs, destroying a good chunk of the surrounding area and sending him flying around. Nejair, Izuku thought. how I control this quirk. You gotta do the thingy and then sensei. Is Nejar is a pout. That's seriously the best advice you have, the second asked. Hey, unlike all of you people, I didn't have years to contemplate how my quirk functioned. It all came naturally to me. I mean, she has a point and spoke up. Hey, Midoriya. Mary, you okay? I can't. Izuku, do you have any advice? I mean, wave motion always stored up energy so Nejaira could expel it. Kinda like that one power of yours. What was it called? Oh, Fujin. Fujin stores kinetic energy. Wave motion uses the body's stamina. I mean, yeah, but out of all of your quirks, those two are the most similar. Okay, I have to try. Maybe Mirio's right. Maybe wave motion is similar enough to Fujin that I can learn that way. Okay, focus, Izuku. You don't have much time. Focus. The hell? Third, what's happening? Yoichi asked. I'm just as confused as you are. Nejaira chirped. Guys, Izuku thought. Kid, I don't know how else to explain this, but it looks like Fujin and wave motion are synchronizing with each other, enhancing each other. I think Round Eye's hypothesis was more accurate than we realize. Both quirks have effectively doubled each other's power output. The out-of-control spirals of energy began to recede until they simply covered Izuku's arms and legs like gauntlets. That means, Izuku mused as he floated on there. If I combine 100% of One for All with the newly enhanced Fujin and use wave motion to enhance my attacks just a little bit more, he glared at the Namu, which had stopped attacking, most likely because, in its unthinking state, it didn't recognize the skeletal form of Toshinori Yagi as All Might, and if I add gear shift to the equation. Izuku grabbed his arm, activating the second's quirk. The sheer power coursing through him tore his uniform to shreds. I can deliver attacks at least 230% power. A massive boom exploded through the area as Izuku shattered the sound barrier from a standstill. He slammed his fist into the Namu, the sheer power behind the attack sending the behemoth flying. Young Midoriya, Toshinori cawed in shock. Top Gear Overdrive, Izuku shouted. His arm protested under the force of his attack, the Namu's shock absorption the only thing keeping the limb from outright shattering. Kid, are you out of your mind? The second protested. Going straight into top gear like that will only wear your body down faster. Sorry, but the Namu's really fast. Izuku grit his teeth as the beast regenerated its shattered chest, launching at the green-haired boy. So I have to be faster. Izuku launched himself at the Namu faster than the eye could see, unleashing a flurry of powerful punches that pushed the enhanced beast back. Izuku pushed forward, trying his best to ignore the pain impact recoil was inflicting on him. Even with all the new quirks enhancing him, the Namu stood no chance against the sheer power this newly enhanced One for All granted. Namu flew into the air, and with a primal yell, Izuku slammed his fist into the monstrosity's stomach, the Namu spewing up blood from the sheer force of the impact. The ground beneath Izuku's feet shattered, and the bones in the boy's arm finally collapsed under the sheer strain they had been put under as the Namu was blasted away at supersonic speeds, vanishing into the distance as everyone present looked on in shock and awe at a display of power that surpassed All Might himself. Tenth did. Did you all see that? The reporter could only whisper as she stared at the boy. Izuku clenched his broken fist, raising it into the air triumphantly. He beat the villain that even All Might struggled against. She swallowed, looking at the boy in awe. Is this what a future symbol looks like? X. Bokugo stared at the scene in shock, unable to comprehend what he just saw. Deku, damn you. You were really hiding all this power just to make me look bad. X. You felt whatever sympathy she had for Izuku die as she saw Nejaira's quirk pull around his arms and legs. You bastard. Tenth, I can't move, Izuku panted as he tried his best to remain standing. His sheer display of power had taken everything out of him. Shigaraki's scream of rage tore through the air. No, IT was supposed to kill All Might! Exclamation. You weren't supposed to beat IT! Exclamation. You cheater! Exclamation. You're using hacks, aren't you? I'll kill you! Exclamation. Shigaraki, a massive foot slammed into Shigaraki, punting him into the air and sending him far away from you. Hey, sorry we're late. and tea lady called, holding an unmoving kurogiri in her hand. We all came as soon as we could. Izuku watched as multiple pros, including Edgeshot, Kami Woods, and UQ, stormed through the gates of UA to confront the villains. With a sigh of relief, Izuku collapsed into unconsciousness. Act 1 end. Chapter 39, Act 2 Aftermath, coming October 22. Notes: previews for ACT2 : If you really want to know, my name is Ronri. The little girl spoke, not even bothering to turn as she focused her attention on the Namo. That's a lie, Sakachi responded. What's your real name? Ronri just smiled. You led her to her death just so you could take her quirk, didn't you? Yu screamed, struggling against the ectoplasm clones. I'll fucking kill you! Exclamation. X. Are you serious? Endeavor snarled as he looked upon the form of Toshinori Yagi. What the hell's up with that weak little body? I'm sorry, Tenko. Hana sobbed, tears flowing down her cheeks as she clutched onto Shigaraki's leg. I should have stood up for you. I should have protected you. I'm a terrible big sister. X. Nedzu had to argue with the HPSC and school board, but they eventually came to a compromise. Aizawa drawled. While we can't cancel the sports festival, we will be doing things differently from this year onwards. X. At first, I was weary of Yuzumaro-san, Izuku growled as he stared Shoto down. But now she's someone who I'm glad to call one of my closest friends. And you left her to die out of spite. Izuku turned and walked down the hallway. You're declaring war on me, Todoroki. Well, consider this a declaration of war from all of us closest to Yuzumaro-san. X. Here Ronri held out a candy apple, witchery-eyed wearily. It's your favorite, yeah. 10th Todoroki. Izuku pulled AI closer. Whatever you have to say, just say it. X. My name is Red Riot. Kirishima yelled as he hardened his skin, glaring at Stain with unbridled hatred. And you're gonna pay for what you did. 10th Yumara-san, Achako whispered, voice cracking. Why are you with the hero killer? 10th, get your hands off of her! Exclamation. Izuku roared, slamming his foot into Bakugo's jaw. X. I'm sorry, Midoriya, Shinato sighed. But it was your actions that led to this in the first place. You may have been able to save Hajime-san, but this time the future is set in stone. X. Ah, how cute. Yu's eyes widened as Ronri was completely unfazed by the attack. You actually think you can hurt me? You make Deku happy, don't you? Bakugo snarled as he pulled the pin in his gauntlet, Iri's eyes widening as the exit port was held directly to her face. Well, X. Ai let her tears flow as the two people she loved more than anything else pulled her close, Izuku whispering words she hadn't heard since her mother died. Happy birthday, Ai. Izuku awoke slowly within the void that encompassed One for All, his mind feeling hazy. Hey, are you all right? Izuku blearily opened his eyes to see Nejar watching over him in worry. Senpai. Hey, enough of that senpai stuff. I'm living rent-free inside your head, so just call me Nejar, and I'll call you Izuku K. She helped him to his feet. Sorry about all that. Wave motion was always powerful, but not that powerful. Its power has been enhanced significantly by One for All, Yoichi explained. Honestly, it's a miracle Midoriya can still handle the power safely enough to not explode. But don't worry, I'll try to help in whatever ways I can. So if you need information about wave motion or you just want someone to talk to, I'm your gal. Okay? Thank you, Nejar, and I really am sorry you're stuck here. None of that now, Nejar said, patting him on the head. Let's change the subject. I know it was most likely necessary, but going all out against the Nomalite that was still incredibly reckless, Second spoke up. I only did it cause I knew shock absorption would lessen the backlash from One for All. Izuku explained. Honestly, at the moment, I can only use about 45% of its power safely if I don't factor in wave motion, Fajin, and transmission. In any case, Yoichi spoke up. My brother's likely to be pissed that Tamura lost Kurogiri. If I know him, it'll be like trying to get a PS5 all over again. What are you talking about, Yoichi? Everyone knows PS5s are a myth, Izuku explained. Yoichi blinked, dumbfounded. What? Yeah, Sony skipped over that number and went straight to the PS6 for some reason. Nejar added on, users 4 through 6 nodding in agreement. First, I am at a genuine loss for words right now. Yoichi stuttered. There is no hope for this world. Third added on. Izuku made to ask what was wrong, only to stop as muffled shouting echoed through the void. Hot danger sense flared. Izuku snapped awake, jolting out of the way just in time for an electric arrow to scorch his pillow. Eyes wide, he watched as a trio of ectoplasm clones were restraining Yu Yu Heya at the door to the infirmary. Yu shouted. Senpai, you led her to her death just so you could take her quirk, didn't you? Yu screamed, struggling against the ectoplasm clones. I'll fucking kill you! Yu Heya, one of the clones commanded. Cease this at once or we'll have to use force. Let go of me. I'll kill the quirk thief. Our recovery girl's cane flew through the air, nailing Yu on the forehead. The girl jerked, her eyes rolling back as she slipped into unconsciousness. Unbelievable. The elderly woman seethed as she stomped up to the unconscious girl, kissing her to heal the possible concussion. This is a medical area. She should know better. Take her to Nezu. The ectoplasm clones complied, dragging the unconscious girl up. Yu Nejar despaired as the other vestiges comforted her. Recovery girl turned to Izuku. And as for you, young man, I get that this was a dire situation, but breaking your body and pushing yourself to exhaustion is only going to cause problems in the long run. She picked up her cane as she hobbled over. I wasn't able to heal your arm yet, because your body had been suffering from severe quirk exhaustion, so that we'll have to wait. Yes, ma'am, Izuku said. Was anyone else hurt? Recovery girl sighed, pulling back some curtains. Izuku's eyes widened as he saw AI and Cthulhu both sedated and both missing an arm. The Yu girl's tentacles have a regenerative factor, though it seems to be slow. When she wakes up, I'll use my quirk on her. Hopefully it'll speed up the regeneration. As for Yuzumaru, the elderly woman sighed. You can have that little girl restore her arm if you want, but I suspect there'll be some trauma from the whole incident. Izuku clenched his fist. Could this day get any more stressful? Found you, Greenie, Rappa yelled, bursting through the door. Let's fight now, Rappa, for God's sakes. I am injured! Izuku pointed to his cast. Rappa blinked, staring at him for a few. The man then grabbed his own. Okay, we're on even footing. Can we fight now? Rappa asked, his broken arm dangling limply at his side. First, I am at a genuine loss for words right now, Recovery girl stuttered. 10th over here, Sakachi called as he led the group of officers through the forest. The Nama Midori had fought was found to have been hit with enough force that it had entered the planet's orbit. While they were trying to figure out a way to bring it down so as to bring it in for studies, some unknown force had yanked it right out of orbit and down to this forest here. Though Midoriya said that any Namu that wasn't a high-end or Kirigiri should be docile without Shigaraki giving it orders, Sakachi worried that wouldn't be the only thing he'd find. He was proven right when he neared the Namu's suspected impact location, only to hear the creature's animalistic shrieks. "Hold still, you big, stupid animal. I'm not done yet." Sakachi and the officers round the corner and were met with a bizarre sight. A little girl in a blue dress and teal bonnet was holding the Namu down, her small limbs easily pinning the thrashing creature in place as she held a hand to his forehead. "Stop right there," Sakachi yelled, only for the girl to ignore him. He made to move forward, only for one officer to grab his shoulder. "Sir, her oar." "It's purple." Sakachi stiffened. This particular officer, Yuka, had a quirk that let him determine how much of a threat a person was by a colored oar. Green meant the person was safe to be around. Yellow meant that you should be wary about the person but were otherwise safe. Orange meant the person was a threat. Well, the only other person they knew to have a red aura was an S-rank villain they had apprehended about a decade ago. Purple was completely uncharted territory. "Should stay here, but be ready to fire," Sakachi ordered as he moved closer. "Young lady, I must ask you to step away from that creature." The little girl briefly acknowledged him before turning back to Namu, seemingly uncaring that a group of nervous officers were pointing guns at her. "What are you doing to that creature?" The girl sighed, annoyed by the questioning. "I'm taking his quirks. Not like he has need of them anymore. Besides, you can never have too many regeneration quirks. If something were to happen to me, who would be there for Izuku?" "Taking his." "Shit, what does Midori have to do with this?" Sakachi demanded. "Everything. In my universe, Izuku gave me hope that I could finally live a normal life again. But All Might, in his infinite paranoia, ruined everything. I'm simply doing everything in my power to repay Izuku's kindness. And I have a lot of power." Truth, Sakachi winced. "What do you mean your universe?" Sakachi asked. "I mean exactly that, a dumb bess." The girl snarked. Who exactly are you?" "If you really want to know, my name is Ronri." The little girl spoke, not even bothering to turn as she focused her attention on the Namu. "That's a lie," Sakachi responded. "What's your real name?" Ronri just smiled. In an instant, the world seemed to shift, and Ronri was suddenly in his face, her smile belaying a threat beyond his comprehension. "You don't get to ask that question." A loud crack rang through the area, and Ronri's head jerked back. Sakachi looked back, wide-eyed to see one of his officers had fired in panic. He turned back to Ronri, whose head was hanging. Sakachi stepped back. "I want to play now." The group of officers shuddered as Ronri lifted her head, a feral smirk on her face. A small drop of blood covered a wound that had long since healed. "So play W letter 1E2FTH me exclamation. The world suddenly seemed as though it had flipped over as Sakachi and the officers screamed. The detective slammed into the ground, jumping up in a daze. He didn't see anyone, but he could hear his officers' screams. He ran towards the sounds, but it felt like we was going in circles. Wait, he had passed that tree already. The hell? He knew he was running in a straight line. What kind of quirk did this kid have? "Detective exclamation!" An officer screamed as he came into view. A green aura surrounded the man as his body was violently twisted in ways a human body should never be twisted without a proper quirk. Sakachi winced as the human pretzel dropped lifelessly to the ground, Ronri floating down, surrounded in her own green aura. "Hey, why are you guys acting so scared?" She tilted her head in curiosity. "We're playing a fun game, aren't we? You're supposed to be cheering and laughing. Stop being scared." Ronri colon. Original quirk spatial manipulation allows the user to fully manipulate the fabric of space to their whims, whether it be for offense, defense, or even warping. This quirk's power has been augmented to the point that it can now be used to cross the boundaries between universes. "I told you to stop being scared exclamation." Ronri seethed, growing agitated as she used her quirk to slam two officers together with such inhuman force that the only thing left of them was a fine red mist. "We're playing a game. You're supposed to be having fun exclamation." Was this kid delusional or something? Yet still, the screams continued until "You would die above N letter 1E B letter 1E5GH exclamation." Sakachi and his remaining 2 officers hit the ground again, looking up to see Ronry with an enraged look. What the fuck is wrong with you people? Here I am treating you to a fun game, and you're all running around and screaming like a bunch of banshees! Exclamation. She screamed, stomping the ground hard enough to cause tremors and leave a small crater. Sakachi didn't know what was scarier, the fact that she had just effortlessly slaughtered his officers, or the fact that she was throwing a goddamn tantrum. Ronry reached under her bonnet and started violently ripping out her hair. Nobody ever appreciates my games. It's not fair. I put a lot of thought into these things. How many times has Endeavor killed a petty thief after going overboard with his flames? How many times have you people praised him for doing so? How are my games any different? Izuku's the only person who ever treated me with kindness. I didn't ask for this. I didn't ask for the damn doctor to force Potato Face's quirk into my body. She stopped, lowering her arms as she glared at the officers with frightening hatred. I don't want to play anymore. You've ruined my game. Thanks a lot. The 2 officers were shrouded in a green orb before being violently ripped to shreds. Ronry stomped up to Sakachi, slamming her palm to his forehead. Memory alteration. 10th, I've set up a meeting with the students' parents for tomorrow. It'll be best to address this situation as soon as possible. Nedzu sighed as he went about setting up security upgrades for the school. Snipe, you said Rika Hyoto was among the villains. You managed to paralyze her, but I had nothing to restrain her with. By the time I got back, she was gone. God damn it. Aizawa seethed. I should have had that girl thrown in prison myself. The past is the past, Aizawa-kun. Nothing we can do for now. Nedzu blinked as a notification dinged on his tablet. Oh, a request for a guest pass. It's illogical to allow guests on the campus so soon after we were attacked. The parents are an exception, not a rule, Aizawa pointed out. Yes, but the request has come from Hanako Yumara. Does that ring any bells? She's one of Midoriya's friends from junior high. Toshinori spoke up. And from what I understand, she was particularly close to Seathil or you. Are you willing to vouch for her, Yaga-san? Neju asked. Of course. I met her a couple of times. She's a very sweet girl. She would get along great with young Ishido. Aizawa muttered something under his breath at that implication. The poor dear must have seen the news and was worried for her friends. Midnight suggested. Very well then. I'll approve it. Nezu said as he tapped on his tablet. Now, onto the topic of Kurogiri. Or, as some of you may know him, Aburo Shirakumo. 10th, the 7-year-old spat up blood, a tooth falling out in the process. Granted, it was a baby tooth, but still, you're worthless. The green-haired man spat on his daughter's face. You were supposed to have powerful meta ability, a combination of mine and your mother's. The Grand Commander would have made excellent use of such a powerful meta ability. Instead, you were born defective. This is all your fault. He kicked her in the stomach before reaching down and placing a glowing palm on her face. It's your fault you're being beaten like this. It's your fault your mother died. Do you understand, AI? A defect like you has no right to so much as breath. Useless, worthless defect. AI woke up with a scream, thrashing around before a pair of arms wrapped around her gently. AI, calm down. It's me. It's okay. It took about a minute, but Ochako managed to calm the girl. It's okay, AI. It's okay. The gravity girl soothed, stroking her hair. I'm here. I'm right here. You're safe. AI clung to Ochako, tears running down her face as she sought protection. Protection someone like her didn't deserve. Shigaraki jerked awake within a black void. The last thing he remembered was trying to kill that damn cheater, but then something massive struck him, and he blacked out. He stumbled to his feet, looking around wildly. Tenko. Shigaraki whirled around at that damn name, catching sight of a young girl staring at him. Who are you? Shigaraki demanded. The girl's eyes betrayed how much the question hurt. Tenko, don't you recognize me? It's me, Hana. Your sister. 40, I should expel you, you know. Neju opened beady eyes, staring down the Bakugo family. Vlad King expressly ordered you to retreat to your dorms and only engage the villains if absolutely necessary. The fact that you blatantly ignored him and actively sought out villains to fight during the entire invasion was in violation of your probation. Bakugo glared at the mammal. However, in the process, you saved the life of one Ayuzumaru. She would have surely bled out had you not cauterized her lost limb. But that doesn't excuse the fact that you completely disregarded your teacher's orders. So here's what we'll do. I will not expel you this time, young Bakugo. However, for all of next week, you will be solely responsible for cleaning the 1B dorm. Does that sound fair? Yes, thank you for your leniency. Mitsuki spoke up. Just know that I will not be so merciful if you do something like this again. TCH, whatever, Bakugo said, more annoyed than angry. Can I go now? You may. Thank you for your time. The Bakugos left, and Ned's aside as he prepared to deal with Todoroki. 10th young man, your classmates informed me of your refusal to save the life of an innocent by cauterizing a severe wound. I won't use my father's fire, so you would willfully abandon innocent people to their fates simply to spite your father. That is an extremely unheroic thing to do, Todoroki-kun. You have no idea what that man did to me, to my siblings, to my mom. The room's temperature began to drop. Oh, I know far more than you think I do. You're on very thin ice right now, no pun intended. Quite frankly, I was very tempted to ban you from this year's sports festival. However, I was persuaded otherwise. More like Izuku had asked him to let Todoroki compete, wanting to deal with the boy himself. As it stands, though, if you do not shape up and stop limiting yourself soon, I will have no choice but to remove you from the hero course. Todoroki was silent. That is all. Please think on what I told you. 10th Nezu stared at Yui with his beady little eyes as if trying to dissect her by sight. He sighed. Do you know why you're here? Because you're protecting a villain. Heian-san, no. This is complete bullshit. He killed Neji. He stole her quirk, and you're all putting him on a goddamn pedestal. MS Heian. You're treating him like the second coming of All Might. For what reason? Neju sighed. As much as I would tell you, you would likely not even believe me at this point. So until you decide to keep an open mind and actually listen to what we have to say, you will not interact with Izuku Midori again, or else what? Or else you'll be expelled and committed to a psychiatric ward that seemed to shut you up. Now return to your dorm and try to calm down. When you decide to keep an open mind, then we will explain everything to you. Go on now. I have a parent-teacher conference in about an hour. 10th, I don't have a sister. And stop calling me Tenko. Shigaraki scratched his neck in irritation. Though he wouldn't admit it, the hurt in Hana's eyes at that statement stung him a little. Tenko, the hell did I just say? What about Mon? Remember how we used to take him on walks all the time? Will you just shut? What about Grandma and Grandpa and Mom? I told you. What about Dad? Memories flashed through Shigaraki's mind, and something in the man's eyes changed as he began scratching at his neck hard enough to draw blood. The only thing I remember, Shigaraki said lowly, is being beaten, abused, and thrown outside to suffer just for wanting to act like a kid. Red eyes locked onto the girl in front of him, as well as the coward who threw her own little brother under the bus. The boy seemed to bleed away. He jerked awake in a small room, quirk suppressant cuffs tightened around his wrists. A small radio in the corner crackled to life. Ah, you're awake, Tamura. Sensei, where am I? What's going on? You are inside a vault, Tamura. Ha! Consider it your punishment. That little stunt of yours has not only cost us Kurogiri and the anti-symbol of peace, but has put Hero Society on high alert. Do not worry, though, I will be sure to let you out in time to watch the sports festival. And besides, you should feel grateful. I once held my own brother in this vault. The radio turned off, leaving Shigaraki alone in darkness as he registered all for one's words. Somewhere buried deep within Tamura Shigaraki's mind, a little boy opened his eyes. 10th, you are being quite lenient with the punishment, my lord. Karaki mused. Despite the disaster of a stunt Tamura pulled, he did manage to reveal All Might's weakened state to the world. All for one grinned. I had planned to add even more quirks to the anti-symbol of peace, but the fact that All Might lost it when it was only half complete proves it. One for All no longer dwells within him. He has passed the power onto a boy whose skills and knowledge allowed him to reach singularity early, and All Might himself is merely coasting by the embers of that great power, a feeble spark that will soon put itself out. For now, we will have to put our retrieval of Midoriya on hold. Let us sit back and watch the chaos as society realizes their precious symbol of peace's days are numbered. XAI clenched her newly restored arm, watching as the glow died from Eri's horn before reaching over and patting the girl's head with a tired smile. Thank you, Eri-chan. Eri looked down. AI knees hurting. What do you mean? Achakuni said some bad people tried to hurt AI, and now AI has this look in her eyes that I used to have. I's face fell as she took in Eri's words. Well then, we'll just have to be there for her, okay? We can't force her to feel better, but we can all gently guide her to that point, okay? AI whispered, and Eri nodded quietly. 10th Aizawa watched as parents streamed into the auditorium. He knows Midoriya and Uraraka's parents among them, as well as Futakuchi and an elderly woman who is apparently Uzumaru's caretaker, just to name a few. The door to the auditorium flew open, and Aizawa winced at the behemoth that walked in. Cthulhu was a 10-foot-tall mountain of muscle that could easily snap Mirko and wrap over his knee. He had grayish-green skin, a bald head, and tentacles that covered the lower half of his face like a beard. He was also wearing a wife beater and camo pants, couldn't even bother to dress up properly. Aizawa muttered under his breath, only to suddenly become very much afraid as he was gripped in a massive fist. My little girl was hurt on school campus under the watch of the teachers that were supposed to protect her, and you're more concerned with how I'm dressed. The man snarled. Hey, settle down, listener. Mike tried. Yusan's fine now. Recovery girl's quirk sped up the regeneration of her arm. So it's okay that my daughter was hurt because she can regenerate her arms. Mike went pale. Yusan. Ned just spoke up. I would ask that you please not snap my teachers like a twig. We will be sure to address your concerns. You have my word. The massive man dropped Aizawa with a huff and sauntered over to his seat as Inko quietly made her way over. He's usually a very nice man. He's just protective of his daughter, she explained. Apparently his wife, Sethila's mother, died from complications in her birth, so he worries about her. I'll keep that in mind. He's also American, so he doesn't have the same concepts of respect as most Japanese people do, Inko explained. The you girl's American? Well, Japanese-American. He said Sethila's mother was from Kanazawa, and Sethila was born and raised in Asai. But yes, you should know his values are a bit different from most native Japanese. Shouta could feel a headache coming in. 10th Toshinori sighed as recovery girl looked him over. How bad? I'd estimate you have about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, in which you can use your power per day, give or take, the elderly woman sighed. I've scheduled a press conference tonight to talk about my true form. I'll just need to downplay my injury and recovery girl whacked him on the head. You need to tell them the truth, Toshinori, that you won't be able to be a hero for much longer. What happens when that quirk within you finally gives out? Even if you still have it, your body can't take much more of this. What happens if One for All finally gives out in the middle of battle, if the symbol of peace abruptly dies? Society has become far too reliant on you, Toshinori. The time has come that you'll need to soon pass the torch to the younger generation of heroes. Toshinori looked out the window where he could see Midoriya, Uraraka, and Hachi. The blue-haired girl was clinging to the two hero trainees as they tried to comfort her. She looked so fragile. I'll think about it. 10th IU3, over here. Midnight called, causing Izuku and Ochako to look over while AI shrank in on herself. Glad I found you. You've got a visitor waiting for you at the front gates. A visitor? Who? I didn't think you were letting people visit at this time. Ochako pondered. Hey guys. Hanako shouted as she made her way over. Midnight pinched her nose as the three, even Haji-san, rushed over to the spider girl. I told her to wait at the gate. Todoroki seethed as he walked down the hall. The principal was just as ignorant as everyone else. He would never use his left side. He bumped into someone. Oh, my apologies, Todoroki-kun, Momo said with a bow. Shoto frowned. Why are you here? Momo blinked. I was just heading to speak with Majima-sensei. Why are you in this school? Shoto reiterated. First, I'm a hero course student, Todoroki-kun. I got in recommendations the same as you. So your parents bribed your way in them. No, It's the only reason they would have let you into this school after that embarrassing showing at the recommendation exam. Shoto sneered, unlike the rest of us who actually earned our way in. Just face it, you're an embarrassment to the hero course who gets everything handed to her. Shoto pushed past her, leaving Momo alone,